I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
Welcome back to an On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast. I'm Tyler Grayton. I'm going to be your host today. I'm joined by Adam and Brenda Weatherby. Welcome.
Hello.
And my co-host today is actually going to be Koby Owens. Koby, tell everyone what you do. You've been on a couple times, but...
Yeah, I am the content producer here, so making up our awesome films and getting all the assets for whenever we have a launch, photo, video, piecing all that together and going on epic adventures along the way.
Speaking of epic adventures, I've been really excited about this podcast. I've tried not to ask too many questions about this trip that you three embarked on just a few weeks ago. So you guys are fresh off the New Zealand adventure. So,
yep, it'd been a trip that we've been wanting to go on for a long time. I'd bucket list hunt, as you would, and something I'd been wanting to go on, and even had plane tickets there, and got canceled in the COVID years, and just the kind of the allure of the mountains and the adventure and the animals is a hunt. I think everybody wants to go to New Zealand. I think we can all agree, and it finally happened this year, 2024.
Yeah, New Zealand is like one of those mountain epic trips that it feels like is still pretty attainable for most people. You kind of can get that feel, and it's not like, New Zealand's a pretty safe country and all those things. So I know that's been like here in like the last 5-10 years has been something like really popular with people like wanting to travel. Mm-hmm. Adam, you were saying you had one of these trips planned before. Mm-hmm. So maybe walk us through your kind of first, like you were planning a trip and then it just kind of the rug got pulled out from underneath you.
Yeah,
right?
That was going to be with Brian Call and Ryan Lampers, Gritty, that we partner with, and was going to go down there. And so kind of had really been like literally physically training for it and getting it getting ready. And I think, it's important to say when you say New Zealand, there's a lot of different types of hunts that can happen down there. A majority of them are high fenced hunts. That are there by far. So we wanted kind of an authentic experience, but it was going to be our first time there. You can go there and just do a DIY adventure, but if you've never been there and all the paperwork and bringing firearms and, all the hunting and getting a helicopter, figuring out where to go and the weather can be a lot. So what our intent was in this trip was to really kind of do a combo where we actually went with an outfitter, Sam Cayley, Hunting Adventures or Trophy hunting. Sam Cayley, yeah. Trophy hunting. It's Sam.
It's Sam.
And so we'd been connected with Sam through another person here, Kelly, and knowing him, and Sam's really a hardcore free range New Zealand hunter. Doesn't do high fence and stuff like that. And so we put together this 2-part trip where the first part we'd hunt with Sam. And we'd do some things. We'd get some private land access. We'd kind of do some different hunting, free-range hunting with Sam, primarily after Tahr and fallow deer. And then we'd rent a car, just us three, and then Joseph Von Benedict with the Backcountry Hunting Podcast, and he writes for a lot of different magazines, good friend. I've done a lot of hunting with Joseph. Joseph came along, so it was the 4 of us, and then we were going to drive over to the southwest part of the island where the kind of the Alps are, they call them the Southern Alps there, and we would just privately hire a helicopter to drop us off in the middle of New Zealand public land up in the mountains in the steep country to hunt chamois ourselves. So it was really a 2-part trip where Sam would help us get to know the lay of the land, do some awesome hunting with Sam, and then Sam connected us with the helicopter pilot when we went and did that DIY. So we wanted this kind of authentic experience, but yet we had somebody hold our hand a little bit too, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm sure just having someone on the ground there is like vital when you're like getting information and things like that. Probably gave you guys a little bit of peace of mind that you weren't walking into this blind, but still kind of gave you guys that. I mean, here we do a lot of DIY hunts, and there's not very many people who can hold Adam's hand while walking around and doing hunts like that. So that's
I'm the only one.
yeah. Brenda's the only one who gets to hold Adam's hand. So
Yeah.
So this is everyone's first time going to New Zealand. Koby, you've done a few adventures outside the U.S., but not to New Zealand, right?
No, New Zealand was also like number one on my bucket list for many years, to go there to just adventure, fly fish, and then hunt. And so this time it came in the form of work and filming hunts and photographing it. So yeah, it was a dream come true to get to make it down there.
Brenda and I had actually, Koby joined us last year, and our other content guy had been on, hunts with us for years, and he left and moved on, and Koby came, and we knew we had this New Zealand trip already planned for this spring. So Brenda and I were talking, but we're like, well, we're not going to ask this new Koby guy to come till we hunt with him first. Because, when you go and share a hunt, you want to be able to share it. So about halfway through our Brenda's Montana sheep hunt last fall, Brenda and I had a little conversation one night in the tent. We're like, well, we like this guy. Let's have him come. Yeah. So Koby and I were out walking a ridgeline the next day, and I said, hey, Koby, we got tickets to New Zealand, and we probably need you to come and film this. And his eyes just popped out of his head, and he was excited.
That is such a good point. You guys kind of have a built-in hunting partner, but trying to find a good hunting partner that's going to, keep a positive attitude. There's nothing worse than when you're sitting on a glassing hill and you hadn't seen anything, and the negative starts to creep in, and you got to make sure you pick your partner. Yep. Well,
yeah.
So.
And as the camera guy on the trip, the last thing you want to do is be the weak link on the trip. You don't want to be holding the group back. You want to be an asset. And so that's something I pride myself in my work, is trying to be an asset to the group, not just being a fly on the wall.
Or a man falling off a bluff. That's the last thing you'd want. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler.
I don't know anything about that.
Let's maybe wait to tell that part, but I'm excited to hear the story. I've gotten bits and pieces of it. But so had Joseph been to New Zealand before?
Nope. And Joseph's hunted. I've hunted with Joseph in Africa. He's hunted in different countries. He's very, very accomplished as a hunter, and he had always had it on his list as well, and that's one of the reasons we invited him, and we were going to do some new product testing. So 2 of the 3 rifles that we hunted with, aren't out yet, and so we were able to do that. So he's able to write up some articles and do some things. So
Joseph's an interesting guy, because you guys met through the industry, but now you guys have essentially became really good friends. And
yeah,
done a couple of firsts, like your
first
time to Africa. Too.
Yeah, and first time to Argentina was 9 years ago, and long story, but we missed a flight. Him and I got trapped in the back of a guy we hired to drive us in his sedan 5 hours across Argentina to try to make our flight on time, and he went 100 and something the whole way, and we had 5 hours to kill in the back and got to know each other.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I already can kind of tell this podcast might be super detailed, but I don't want to skip over too many details. Maybe start where. So, okay, you guys have your, about how far out did you start booking tickets? And you mentioned rifle licenses. That's kind of I kind of want to give perspective, since this is a hunt that someone could definitely do on their own. Let's maybe kind of walk through some logistics that you had to plan before you got to the hunt.
Yeah, it's logistically challenging, though. Any international hunt is. So, your flights, firearms licenses were 3.5 to 4 months in advance, and we got them 2 weeks before we left. So, there's a lot of things you really have to do. The e-visa thingy. There's just a lot of things to do ahead of time and boxes to check. So it certainly is not just a let's go to New Zealand next month type of thing. Yeah.
Was there any with physical, thinking physical, did you have to change anything about, so we're coming out of winter, you guys kind of did this as a spring hunt. Did you have to dust off the packs, or because the terrain, to me, when you're looking at video, I know a lot of the video doesn't do it justice, but every once in a while you'll get a shot that gives you perspective, and it's looking straight up. So was there any man, I'm a little nervous about this, or did you change anything about what you guys were doing?
Yeah, we, I would say December, January, February, we started hiking more. We had a really mild winter here, so I'd put 30 pounds in my pack and then just hike around the ranch. So we could get 3 to 4 miles on the ranch. So we just did that kind of
early mornings or after work or whatever.
2 months leading up to the trip.
We were doing on bad days. We were putting packs on and putting the treadmill on full incline, just doing everything we could to get used to it. I would say that I expected for it to be steep, but hands down for the amount of miles we covered, the steepness of the terrain was unparalleled of anything I've hunted in my life. Would you two agree?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
1,000%.
I've been on some steep hillsides and nothing like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
The last 2 days, I didn't even wear a backpack. And I just said, you know what? I have to have everything in my pockets because I don't want to fall off this hill.
There was a lot that was actually, you talk about, we had trekking poles. Brenda wore like the micro spikes or crampons quite a bit. Joseph did too. Brenda wore mine and I wanted them, but I wanted her. It's one of the things. We hunt together. We share things, you know. I want her hunt to be successful because then mine will be as well. And so we had to hunt a lot like that. Trekking poles were an absolute necessity. However, at times you had to put them away because you were actually 4 points of contact with your hands. And there's so much grass that you're grabbing large plants and grass. So it wasn't trekking poles because the vertical, nature of it was so steep that it was many times where you're actually on all fours going up the side of a mountain where you couldn't even use really trekking poles, or you'd often use one. So you'd have one trekking pole and then the other one's grabbing onto things.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So-
that sounds
Yeah.
intense.
I wasn't happy a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's definitely the type 2 fun.
Yes, yes.
Type 2 fun.
Yeah.
So, okay, before you guys got there, I didn't get to hear all of the story, but I got text messages on travel. Adam, you're used to flying places. Maybe tell me at your guys' little airport struggles, things to not forget to do, I guess, when it comes to traveling.
It's hard from Sheridan, Wyoming to Christchurch, New Zealand. It's 4 flights. Best case, you're 30-plus hours door to door. We ended up having weather delay a flight out of the Rockies here, and it delayed us, so we were 55 hours door to door. But there were all sorts of things without going into details, but there is a little like NZ visa, e-visa thing that like we had to fill out last minute. And so there were just a number of things that kind of added to that. But we were 55 hours from leaving our door here to when we met Sam and Joseph over there. So long it's when having the club, like the United Club or whatever you're flying on.
matters.
Oh, dude, just in Kobe's buffet, he paid for like 2 years worth of that club, right? We spent like 8 or 10 hours at LAX, and Kobe just every hour on the hour circled the buffet line.
Nice.
Yeah, it was clutch.
So you guys met with Sam and Joseph because Joseph made a flight that you guys ended up missing, correct? You guys were all supposed to travel
He went
together?
out of Salt Lake. We were going to link up in San Francisco. We didn't get to San Francisco in time due to the Billings to Denver being delayed. And so he got there 24 hours in advance of us. And what happened was we were actually on the phone in L.A. with Sam and Joseph over there and realized that, A, we were going to be a day late, and B, like record-breaking rainfall was due to get there and was going to really inhibit our ability to fly in and even to hunt. And so they basically called and said, are we allowed to hunt before you get here and just go poke around a little bit and see if we could find something while we were sitting in LAX?
Wow. Because so they elected to go because I think you were still in the airport when you sent me a picture of Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Did Joseph give you guys the story on how that first? This was a Tahr, right?
Yeah, they went out Tahr hunting, and we were initially going to fly into some areas, but he had some private land access he could get on and get all free range to go. And this night they basically found one good Tahr bull, and it was like Sam was adding everything up. We had a list of things we were going to shoot and when to get over to the Southern Alps and how to do it all. And so they made a call. They're like, this is a good bull. We might not see one like this again. And so Joseph, literally while we were somewhere over the Pacific, made a one-shot kill with a 7 PRC on a great bull Tahr.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's a good way to start the trip. It's also coming from like logistically and planning. It's kind of like that first, like where you can kind of exhale. Someone got something down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were on the flight, and you can get the in-flight like messaging for free. And I got a picture of Joseph with a Tahr, and I was kind of excited and kind of upset all at the same time.
Yeah, kind of bummed too. Yeah. So you guys land. What was the big town in New Zealand that you land in?
Christchurch.
Christchurch. Okay, so you're in Christchurch. You guys.
Well, we did clear customs in Auckland, and then they took all our backpacking food. So pro tip there.
Oh yeah.
No chicken or pork can come into the country.
Even if it's freeze-dried or dehydrated in
Yes.
prepackaged things.
Yes.
Just buy it when you get there.
And honestly, they had some pretty solid backpacking meals we came to discover. Like
it
they
was
were,
fine.
they
We bought some,
tasted
but we
good.
got about $300 worth of stuff confiscated.
you also need
Yeah.
to like clean off your boots, clean off your tent stakes.
They
like,
washed
They are
There's
crazy.
everything.
biolab there that you have. They'll take
Biolab.
it into, and there's a little window that they give you a ticket, like leave security and like go claim your stuff here after we've like
They were like washing our
inspected and
tent
washed it.
stakes and like putting our boots in bags. And we'd heard that and even washed our boots. So like getting in the country, like it's no joke.
Yeah, they're probably like worried about like any kind of like diseases in the dirt or like any kind of parasite or invasive plants or bugs.
Well, they didn't get any from us because we were thoroughly inspected. I thought he was going to hose me down there for a while. But, like, you're too dirty. I'm like, I've been flying all night. I stink.
So you lost your what was the brand on the backpacking meals there?
I had Peak Refuel, I had Wild Society, and I had Gastronome.
Oh, that's what you.
No, that's what got
lost.
taken. What is New
Oh,
Zealand?
oh,
And
Oh,
Brenda
they were all-
lost some right on Trek.
Yeah, they were all New Zealand brands.
yeah,
Yeah, I
don't
can't
know.
recall.
it was good.
No
but
shout out.
We made it,
No shout out.
but we gave them a good supply of backpacking food that we had.
I wonder what happens to
Minutely.
that. Do you think they
It went
do
in
Oh,
the
they
trash
were-
can. We
They
watched
went right
it.
into the trash can.
They probably
Oh,
burned
it was like that.
We were crying.
All the chicken had bird flu for sure. So it was swine flu. We brought in bird flu. It's amazing New Zealand's even still a country after we were there.
They took all my firstborn meat sticks, dude. I was pretty sad
Oh,
without
really?
them. Yeah. Yeah, I had like 2 jalapeno ones that like they didn't find, and I was like, oh, hold on to these.
You guys got all
Yeah.
stocked up, and then now you're going to camp, correct?
No. So, not true, because we were going to be backpacking the second half of the trip after we left Sam. So first part, actually, we linked up with Sam, and then we were staying in more like a Airbnb, and we stayed in a ranch house and kind of like operated out of those things and day hunted. We were going to helicopter in, but due to the weather being so poor, we might have got dropped off and been there for like a week. And so we'd have got stuck there, missed the whole second half. So that whole buy the backpacking food actually happened mid-trip after we hunted with Sam before we headed over there. But
Gotcha.
that's details.
Details.
So we actually literally left the airport after the 50-something hours of travel. We jetted over and met. They were packing out. They had to go back the next morning to pack out his Tahr. And so they packed out his Tahr. We then met over at Sam's house. And then we're like, let's go. So 55 hours, no sleep, put our stuff in his old Land Cruiser and his trailer and headed off to what was going to be this little Airbnb we rented out on this area out in a ranch area where we were going to go hunt fallow deer out of first. Because we reversed everything. When we couldn't fly in for the Tahr due to the weather, Sam just kind of put together a bunch of Plan B stuff. So we actually found ourselves that night hiking straight up a mountain looking for fallow deer that night before we'd slept or taken a shower or done anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Was that first night successful? Were you guys finding game, or like at
We
this point when you're driving?
we
in,
didn't see a mammal that first night. We just hiked straight up a hill.
Yeah.
And Sam, I think, realized who he was hunting with because he goes, yeah, we're going to hike up and over that hill. And I'm looking, and there's like 3 hills, a little fall summit. I'm like, it was like, if you think we're going to get to that before dark, like that's not going to happen. And sure enough, we get halfway up and it's like getting dark. He's like, I don't think we're going to make the top. I'm like, we're not going to make the top.
We were never gonna.
No.
I think he was checking us out to see how we could hike, which I didn't think we did bad. But we
Slow
did
and
fine.
steady wins
Slow
the
and
race.
steady.
I was gonna say, yeah. As a guide, he's probably like, okay, this is the hill that I take all my clients to just to
Yeah.
see how well they do.
But Kiwis know how to hike. Like they just scramble. They
Yeah.
scramble up stuff.
So they have pretty much like an old school wood. What do you call his walking stick?
He called it his hill stick.
Yes.
So it's longer than a trekking pole, and he'll like have it diagonally across his body and be able to like push into the hillside and like lean into the hillside almost.
And they'll make them and keep them for years and have these hunting like hill sticks that they use. So they look at our carbon fiber stuff that Koby snapped in half. And but there was reasons, but they kind of have their hill stick. So a lot of things are kind of like a lot of international hunts you go and there's some like more kind of authentic local stuff where they look at all our fancy schmancy and they're like, dude, Hobbit's been roaming these hills for years with these sticks, and it's worked just fine, you know. So
And he's in his like shorts and tights.
Oh yeah, he had a Peter Pan outfit.
he called it. Yeah, they'll go when it's like warmer, but they'll wear like leggings or whatever, but then like shorts over it,
Yeah.
and then like some
Kiwi.
camo.
Sounds like a biker here in the States. It's like what bikers.
Kiwi hunter with the hill stick.
Yeah, loud and proud.
He's
Yeah.
like, those carbon fiber trekking poles are cute.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So that first night, you guys got out, stretched the legs, and did you guys sleep well, or was the whole jet lag thing, or just?
I don't
We're
even
fine.
remember even
I-
sleeping. It was probably so good.
I actually got the whole 4 rows of the plane on the way over to myself, or whole 4 seats. So I had an entire bed that actually fit me, like laying on those seats, and I slept for like 9 hours on the plane.
You do have a good ability of being able to sleep anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brenda and I are not as young as Koby, and we don't have that ability.
But while we were there, we slept good every night.
We did.
And we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just went into hunt mode and we didn't
Yeah.
think about jet lag. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, then pretty much the next morning it was let's go get after it and see if we can find some fallow deer. And at that point, due to the rain, I think Sam was like, "Okay, I'm going to take him to all the spots I know that are going to be the best." The fallow deer is pretty cool. So they were in the rut. They croak, and so they make a croaking noise that sounds like a frog. And they were going to be in the rut.
Yeah.
They're known to be aggressive fighters. So we went into this pretty excited. So a lot of the fallow deer hunting you may see or pictures are often high fenced, way more than not. They're giants, they're monsters. You know, they're bred in captivity. All those different things are happening with them. So this was to just do a proper, if you would, like free range in the rut fallow deer hunt. But your trophies are old bulls. They're just not these giant monsters that you see on TV and stuff.
Yeah, like on TV, they're like super palmated. And
Yes.
just, yeah.
They're
look
still
like-
palmated.
yeah.
Look awesome.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
a half the size of those ones you see on TV.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Huh,
Yeah.
Interesting. So, with it being the rut, was there any mimicking of rut stuff, or were you guys truly like hiking and glassing, or what is kind of the hunting style?
Yeah. Hiking, glassing, and then we would hear croaks that would give us a clue into where they were, because they would hide in this really thick kind of bushy bushes.
Shrub.
Scrub.
Scrub.
Not
In the
shrub. Scrub.
They'd call it in the scrub.
Scrub.
So they'd hang out in the scrub, but there'd be does and bucks, and then you would hear the croaking, and they were chasing does. So I mean, stuff. It was like, you know, it was certainly hunting in the rut, and it was pretty cool. And then, so we'll tell you in a minute, there was some fighting that happened too. But
Was there
we'll
like
get
a
there.
moment when you first heard the croak where you're like, oh, because I kind of get that feeling when I hear a bugle or a turkey gobble for the first time of the year. It's been a while, but with that croak, where you're like, that's it. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Right when we weren't out of the truck at 30 minutes before that.
Yeah,
first
30
one.
minutes. We hiked up just to do a glass and then saw some. And here's what's cool about them, too. They're all sorts of different colors. Yeah. We literally saw almost white ones, very dark ones, almost black, and then ones that were spotted that would look more like an axis deer hide.
oh wow.
So it's also different when you're spotting. You kind of were like, what's that black? Is that a bear? And so there would be different colors too. So between the rutting and the colors, the palmation, they were pretty exciting to hunt. And I kind of had thought ahead of time the fallow deer would kind of be the gimme. We're going to be doing this ranch hunting, like hunting from a truck. Like we hiked straight up and straight down that day, like pretty significantly. We were outside for, 13 hours hiking up and down hills and spot and stalk glassing, an animal in the rut. So it was a legit hunt. It was fun.
Yeah, the terrain there is interesting because if you picture New Zealand, you're probably picturing like the Alps, the west coast that we were in later this trip. This area that we were in, for people in our area of the world, reminds me like the Salmon Chalice breaks, just like vertical, steep, not a lot of vegetation, a lot of grass and rocks with then like draws with the brush in it, so kind of setting the scene. It was, I think, steeper and a little tougher terrain for that part of the hunt than all of us had anticipated.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a ranch hunt. Like, I thought it was going to be really easy. And I was like, yeah, we're hiking, and we kept knocking rocks down the hill, and everyone's like, shh. No, and it was just hard to keep your footing, but it was great.
What was like
Beautiful.
the temperature type of the year? Was it like, I mean, I know you guys were saying that it was really rainy, but should have it been like a September here, or what is there like
Yeah, September, October.
Yeah.
October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that day we were hunting fallow was warm. It was just
Yeah,
a beautiful
it
day.
got hot. It rained on us that day. So mainly, that was probably the driest day we hunted.
Yeah.
That was the only time we saw the sun for about an hour when we were hiking up a hill, and it was literally the only time we saw the sun.
Yeah.
Almost. I mean, literally the whole
And
time.
that's not normal. Like that was
It was
excessively
extra
rainy.
Yeah, this particular storm, they were measuring it in they said we might get a meter of rain. Not a centa or a milla, like a meter of rain. So they were expecting a ton kind of in the mountains. So yeah, it was cool. So we went out that morning and spotted them all and saw a couple smaller ones and ended up seeing what Sam was designating a shooter buck. And Brenda was going to be up first. So her and Joseph were going to be hunting fallow deer. And Brenda was going to be up first. And so we went and saw this particular one. They ended up bedding, and we got within a few hundred yards, 200
Yeah,
yards.
we were right around
Kind of
2.
where they bedded. And we just waited them out for an hour or two while they were bedded. And then they got up, and they started moving around quickly. We think the does winded us, and they took off. We had a few seconds where Brenda was set up.
We had quite a few seconds, but
I was trying to be nice.
I'm not that great at shooting really quickly. And we had actually enough time for me to shoot, but I just didn't feel comfortable. I couldn't. The
There's a
sun
lot of
was in my
grass.
eyes. There was grass. I just didn't feel right, so I didn't take the shot. I think everyone else was like, why didn't she take the shot?
Well, she was set up kind of on her bipod on these rocks, and where we thought they would come out was going to be higher, and they came out significantly lower.
Yeah.
And so she just had tons of grass in her scope, and so it wasn't a great shot, and she can't rush a woman, so we didn't rush her.
And it's day one, plenty of hopeful
Yeah.
opportunities. Yeah.
But he got away, and then we were all like, rats!
Yeah.
He got
They're
away.
like, he was a good one. And I was like, oh,
He
crap.
was really old, had some trash kind of on his antlers, and just an old buck. And then we ended up then kind of down in there seeing 2 or 3 or 4 other smaller
came
to
out of the
medium
woodworks.
bucks. They
Yeah,
just
yeah.
started coming out mid-morning, cresting, skylining. We tried to get down on things, see what was there, and had this like crazy morning of just seeing a lot of things, but nothing as good as that first old buck. And so then we hiked to the top of this hill, up maybe an hour, just kind of up so we could glass. We spent a couple hours glassing from up there and hearing some croaking, but never seen anything. And then we hunted back around where we thought Brenda's buck was, and he bedded up over the ridge on the other side and thought that he was going to be in there for the afternoon and come out with his does. So we decided in the afternoon to wait him out for a few hours and sit up on top of this hill with a very, very, very downward slope, that if he was to come out with his does, that we'd find him there and shoot him in the evening. So that was kind of
we
the
really
plan.
didn't know if he was there. So we were it was kind of a risk.
Yeah.
We knew something was down in there, but we're like, I hope it's him.
So we kind of camped out for the afternoon. It was up over the ridge on the other side where Brenda saw hers in the morning. So we waited and waited and waited for a while, and then kind of we realized, let's get a little bit closer, because at the beginning we were 400-something yards. It was pretty windy, so we're like, let's try to get closer. And we'd get closer. We'd sit there for a half hour, an hour, and waited and waited and waited. And then in the evening, 2 bucks walk out from the scrubs and put on one of the best fights that I've ever seen between bulls, bucks, or rams, or whatever in real life.
Yeah, it was incredible.
It was.
Out like within shooting
unbelievable.
distance, or like just
Yeah, 250?
Yes, but we didn't want to. We wanted to just watch them.
yeah.
Like it was so
Well,
amazing.
also they weren't really providing. They were behind trees, but they came out going at it for 15 minutes.
I was going to say good 10 minutes, like the most intense, like even as hard as I've ever seen bull elk fighting. Like these things were going at it.
Don't want to put you on the spot, but did you get some good footage of that?
I sure did.
Epic footage. So
So good.
Joseph got kind of phone scope stuff. Koby got slow-mo 4K stuff. How many frames? I don't know all those
All the
things.
gigabytes?
It's 240 frames a second, 10 times slow-mo, so some pretty wild slow-mo stuff.
Was that on the what's
More-
your big setup? Remind people. of
The
big-
A7S3, and then I had it on the Swaro 95 millimeter spotter with the Swaro adapter. I can never remember the name. It's
So a 95 millimeter Swaro at like less than 300 yards,
At, like-
slow-mo video. And it was so much so that as they were fighting, we could see blood on them.
Oh, really? Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
It was like, and then, so what's interesting is we immediately noticed, especially Sam, Brenda's was a very unique older buck that probably had actually begun to have shrinkage, in his antlers a little bit, and just a unique buck. They both were very similar colored, more like that Axis deer, kind of brown with some spots color. Brenda's had the uphill advantage like most of the time, and the other one would try to come around on this hill, and they would just go at it, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
It was
that sounds
really
You
cool.
could kind of tell that my buck was the leader, but that younger buck was about to move him out
It
of
was
the hill.
about his time.
The younger
Yeah.
There
buck,
was a changing of the guard.
It
Yes.
was a change of guard, but it was really cool to see. It was probably like their last. Well, it was their last. fight.
spoiler alert.
But it was super cool because we both were we were all just entranced in just the wildlife doing their thing, their natural thing.
And
was
getting it
cool.
on film and just watching. And so the other bull buck, the younger one, actually had a larger frame antler. And so he was just probably stronger, had a little larger frame antler, and he was that up and comer pushing the other, the other guy out. So at that point, we're like, okay, Brenda's is the buck on the right. Wait, the one on the left. It's the one uphill. And it was Brenda's buck from the morning that, even though maybe slightly smaller frame, just an older buck, and one that Brenda kind of, had been hunting all day. So the idea was halfway through the middle of it, we realized watching them, Joseph looked over and went, so if Brenda shoots hers and we know it's dead and the other one's out there, could I shoot that one? Could we have a double at the end of our real first day? We'd hunted the night before, we'd hunted all day that day. And the other buck was a great shooter buck. Like I said, even a bigger frame, longer than Brenda's. Maybe just a year or two younger, but Brenda's was a very old buck. They said probably 8 to 12 or something, I think. So
yeah, I don't remember exactly.
I think is
but
what they said.
That's
so
crazy. So
yeah.
turn of events. Now you go from enjoying this awesome moment to transitioning into getting set up on the rifle kind of thing, or
Which happened very quickly because they were fighting and then they would kind of walk parallel, kind of look at each other,
yeah, they did the tilt their heads
Yep.
kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
They did it
Yeah.
all.
The dance. Yeah,
Yes.
I know what you guys
They
are talking
walked
about.
next to each other and tilted the head, and they're like, check me out.
Yeah, but then between that time and them almost running out of view was
I mean,
don't
all of
know.
a
Yeah.
sudden
A
they
minute
were
or
just
two?
They went
done.
from
minute
fighting
or two.
and they just took off. And we're going to go out of sight. But it was actually toward us. There was a huge ravine in between us, and they were going down into the creek bottom.
Gotcha.
And very quickly. So Brenda was on her a Spartan tripod and reached the it was so tilted down there was no more
it
angle.
was the max without repositioning.
Without
Okay,
redoing
yeah.
your legs, the downhill was so downhill to him.
And my
so
view of him was through the top of his antlers. So
So-
I'd never really shot like that before, and I was like, I'm not sure about this. But I reached the max, and he was there, and I went, I guess I just need to pull the trigger.
the other buck had already gone out of view into the creek.
Yeah.
Actually, and so Brenda's was there, and we're like, go, go. And it was one of those 5 seconds, 4 seconds, he's going to go out of view. He might have just stopped. Did he stop?
Yeah, he
had
stopped
stopped.
because he was
had
rubbing
stopped.
his back on that one stick, and then he
You've watched this scene
The
on
one
film.
stick.
yeah,
a lot
I
of times.
watched him just
Yes.
go through, and he just kind of looked off to the side, and you're like, Koby, are you on him? Yep.
Oh, and then he was so downhill, his antlers were blocking his vitals almost.
I kept going.
He was
like,
quartering
"Whoa."
to and with the angle.
Yeah, so if he turned his
It was a tough shot between the angle and his antlers and how quick it was. Brenda had 6.5 RPM, and she dropped it in one shot.
Dirt nap.
Perfect shot.
The coolest thing is when my shot went off, the other buck was scared and then came back up the hill.
It came through the frame of the camera. Hers
Yes.
is dying down in the ravine, and the other one runs up. So I
Wait,
grabbed
I'm here?
I grabbed the camera and
forget about me.
start following it, and I'm on it, and Joseph's like, Koby, you on him? Koby, you on him? And
Yep.
Yep.
So we got both bucks.
That's awesome.
So doubled up on fallow bucks
What
for our
bullet
first ones.
was Brenda shooting?
124 hammer.
124 hammers. And then Joseph was shooting 177 hammers, correct?
Mhm.
Cool.
Correct. Yeah.
Two
to
shots,
see,
$2 down.
Yeah, and to see like the two fighting and then to actually kill both of them, it was.
Now
It was
I've seen
epic.
the
It was
pictures
so
with you
awesome.
and Joseph. Now to me, I've made that connection of, man, those two were
Yeah.
once locked horns, which is kind of a cool story.
Oh, you said before both Joseph and Brenda said right before they pulled the trigger in their scope, they saw blood
There was already
on
blood
the hide.
like on their legs, like
That's
they
so
were
amazing.
fighting so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool.
I'd never shot at something that was already bleeding. It was just weird. Looking through your scope and going, oh my goodness.
There's this Instagram page called Nature is Metal, and it's all about like how nature just like when we're not there,
Yes.
nature's
Yeah.
doing nature things. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Oh,
cool.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was neat. We got a lot of hunt ahead of us still here, Tyler.
Yeah, I know. That's what
Let's
I'm
go.
I'm just checking my notes, making sure we're keeping this on track. So
Yeah.
that's fallow deer number 1 for Brenda. So that's that conclusion. You guys hike down there, go and do the whole thing. Is this about dark time kind of thing?
Yeah, we packed him out at night.
Nice.
So packed him out, at night, went back, hung him up, and actually Sam had left his spotter way up on the hill somewhere to shed weight and then had to go back and get it later. So while he was doing that, Koby, Brenda, I, and Joseph, skinned up and took care of those 2 animals. So we were able to take care of the animals that night. So that night we had it all done, and later in the trip ended up, eating the fallow. And Dave, who Sam brought along to cook, did a phenomenal job of cooking up fallow deer, which tasted super good. So yeah, it was great.
That's very cool. So when you
Yeah.
guys were this is a random question, don't know why this popped in my head, but when Sam left you guys, navigation, did you guys just kind of know where you were, or were you, I mean, your Onyx is kind of useless over there, but were you looking at any maps, or was it just like, there's
No,
the hill?
the Onyx thing didn't have New Zealand loaded. We tried. We got like when we went over to the Southern Alps, we downloaded.
We downloaded
An
maps.
area,
I
but it
downloaded like the
didn't give us
medium
topo.
res one, but there's no topo included in that, which in
Gotcha.
that country
Is
That's
without
all that
topo
matters.
is like there's topo lines everywhere. That's what
Yes.
you need more than the vegetation map. So
Interesting. Okay. Cool. So that's a pretty eventful, I guess, day and a half that you guys just went through.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
where to next? Adam?
So then it was at that point we were trying to go for 2 Tahr, one for me and one for Joseph, and then Joseph and Brenda for a fallow deer. So at that point I was up for a Tahr. Nice. And so we actually repositioned different areas, as in left that part of the island and drove over to another part and went and stayed in this old ranch house in this super cool area to go after Tahr. To try to find me something, but again, kind of the helicopter into the inside wasn't gonna be happening. It was pouring rain, so that next day was restationing to that area. That night we went out, and we then started to deal with a lot of rain going after my Tahr and really a lot of visibility issues. So we were glassing up super high. We'd start in the bottoms in the Land Cruiser and then hike up from there, and had some different stocks that things didn't work out, and the clouds would come down and you could be 200 to 300 yards from where you think you saw some Tahr down low, and we just were in the clouds and got a lot of visibility, a lot of slippery slopes, and a lot of that going after my Tahr. So that whole next night after Brenda and Joseph shot their fallow deer, we went up and went up there in the clouds. Ended up coming back just drenching wet with no Tahr that first night. We'd seen a couple bulls, but weren't able to kill one. And so we came back down. We all just dried out our clothes all night from that whole afternoon and night trying to hunt Tahr. And then got up the next day and it was raining, and we just went out to glass. And it's the type of thing, your glass is spotted. You're looking at things, the clouds come in, it's just gray. Even when you can see with your naked eye, even with top level glass, like you just couldn't look through the fog and the clouds and the visibility and stuff like that. So it was a challenging hunt for my Tahr, to say the least.
We were all joking that looking through like the high end Swaros and other high end glass was like looking through a cheap $200 pair of binos the whole time. Like it literally felt like you had a low end pair of binos with you, because it was instantly foggy. Everything was wet, and there was nothing you could do about it. I did not have enough lens cloths I brought a lot, but yeah.
So that next day we went out. So we had some going up the mountain the night before. Then the next morning we went, and from the valley and river bottom, we spotted some tahr really up high that next morning. Trying to remember back there how many bulls there were, but there were three bulls.
Three.
Okay, 3 bulls up there, and it was going to be real high. They were where the clouds would come in and you'd lose them, and they'd be tucked away in the clouds up high, which is probably why they liked it. Just felt a little bit safer up there. So we made a decision to go after them. Tahr, it's kind of like with chamois and those things. It's not like a bunch of antlers and you're counting points on an elk or deer. It's somewhat hard to judge from a very far distance, like a mountain goat would be. It's kind of difficult to judge age and size from a distance, even for an experienced hunter. It's a little bit challenging from a distance. So we set out on that next morning for what became a little bigger adventure than we thought, stalking these tahr.
When you guys first laid eyes on tahr, could you tell right away a bull versus a nanny, or did it take a little bit of your eyes adjusting to what you're looking at?
Yeah, you could tell.
Yeah.
Because the bulls kind of have like a different coat as well?
Their mane and coat's just a lot thicker.
A little color, like they're almost, females were almost like slightly reddish.
Yeah,
it
lighter.
Like, yeah.
The males were darker, bulls were darker and stuff. Yeah.
And they got those shaps like the oddad, like the fur.
Just that
Kind of
big
like
old
a,
mane.
yeah, they call it
like
like a blondish mane almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we headed out up the hill. Joseph stayed back at the bottom to keep an eye from the bottom because we were going to lose visibility and make sure we didn't lose him somewhere. So we went, Joseph stayed back there, and we went hiking. And it got steeper, and it got steeper, and it got steeper, and it got wet and steep. And then
It got slippery.
all of a sudden, Sam's in the lead, then me, then Brenda, and then our beloved cameraman Koby in the back. We'd been using our trekking poles, and it got pretty steep. There's times where you had to, use your hands to kind of climb up some different things, kind of rocky areas and stuff. And so it came to this one part where all of a sudden I started to hear a little whoa, some rocks scrambling, some things happening. And I yelled to Sam, to Brenda, and we turned around, and Koby's probably 15 feet behind us, losing his footing.
So you can see him. He hasn't.
Nope, he is losing his footing, but
Almost catching himself. You know how like you kind of
like
catch
the
yourself?
teeter totter.
Yep.
but
Yep.
life's in slow motion at that point. We're too far to do anything. He's got 2 cameras clipped in.
50 pounds on his
I have
back.
like a lower center of gravity. I'm kind of short. I'm like Hobbit-like. Koby, in
That's a
case you've
good
never
reference
seen him,
that-
he's 6 foot
Yeah.
something, 6'3".
6'3", 6'4", right now.
6'4". Camera's kind of strapped to him, and Koby loses his footing, hits the deck, and begins to roll down
rocks.
a bluff, cliff, mountain, whatever you call it. And it was bad. He ends up rolling we watched him roll off this cliff and bounce and fall off this cliff, had a backpack on, his trekking poles, and 2 cameras and camera lenses on the front. And we lose his vision and just hear him falling down this mountain.
So you guys turn around, you have this like sense of helplessness because you just see this kind of happening, and then does like, oh, man, I kind of have that where your heart sinks. Is that kind of like experience? Because I can only imagine like
Yes.
as soon as
I really didn't want to call his mother and tell her that he didn't make it. Like I literally went
was
into
scary.
like pray mode, and I grabbed Adam and we just started praying that Koby was alive, like that he was conscious, like really, like we were really scared.
We were really scared. We yelled down. At that point, we'd been very quiet because we were stalking Tahr. We were probably 400 yards from him or something at that point.
We were no longer quiet.
We were no longer stalking Tahr. Koby blew that stock. And so then
cameraman.
Yeah. So we yelled down, and there was a fairly long pause. It was an eerily long.
All right, so that's that perspective. So as Koby disappears, Koby, give me your perspective. Walk me through.
Yeah.
from your point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I'll preface this with, like I said, I've been on a lot of hillsides and a lot of interesting situations in the mountains in my life, and I did not feel like this could have happened at that moment, you know? Like, you get in situations where, like, if I, like, slip and fall right now, it's not going to be good. I wasn't really in that mindset in a good or bad way, but it was, like, wet, slippery yellow grass above this bluff, as Sam was calling it. It's not like a cliff face, like straight down, but it's a rocky slope that you would never pick to choose up. Like, you would find a different route. You'd go hike back uphill to not hike down that hill type of a rocky bluff. And I don't know exactly what like started the motion, but I think that kind of some mud just slipped out from under like my left foot, which is my lower foot, and it spun my momentum downhill. Like, I didn't fall to the ground right away. Like, I was on my feet. I just got turned around, and I had a trekking pole. Cameras weren't out filming. They're on my cotton carriers on my shoulders. And I am like, say 2-3 yards from the top of where the rocks start. And so I like kind of shuffle and like can't stop. So I like jump to a rock and like teeter, jump to another rock, kind of teeter. And like, but at that time, then I start like taking off sprinting down the mountain in a way, you know, because like your momentum's just going downhill. So I like probably ran for like 10 yards, and then I hit the deck, start sliding, like just trying to dig the heels in and grab with the hands. Like, there's nothing, no vegetation to grab to, though. It was just like rocks. And then from the slide, I start just rolling, just like just rolling down the hill. And then all of a sudden, like a couple rolls before I stop, I just like I'm looking up in the air at this point, and I just see a camera levitating like 15 feet above me.
We're laughing now, but
yeah. So somehow I like rolled to a stop. We figure 50, 60 yards, like at least, is the distance I went from start to stop. And
so rolling that far, that had to have been like a 10-second thing, though.
Oh yeah, it was. Just so Joseph's perspective at the bottom was, he said that he heard a rock fall. He just stopped filming through his phone scope, heard a rock fall. He's like, oh, that's just a rock. Then he heard another rock fall. And then he said he just heard explicit, well, rocks are, like, he heard me rolling down the mountain, not happy. So I finally came to a stop, and I could have gone another 10 yards down some more rocks. I kind of went between two bushes. I think I must have grabbed onto one enough to stop me, and hats up the hill, trekking poles in pieces. One of my cameras is on my left shoulder still. It just had a little 18mm prime on, just kind of tucked away safe. And the other one had two handles off the side of a cage, a big audio setup on the top, like an XLR mic system, and a monitor screen, external monitor. And when that hit, I watched it blow up into pieces, and I didn't know how many or what it was. So I got to a stop and was like, kind of 5-10 seconds later, I was like, probably should tell him I'm all right. So I'm like, I'm all right, you know, and like, are you really? I was like, yeah. And then I let out just a big, I just was like super frustrated with the camera. I was like just mad that this camera got destroyed, right?
And I didn't know if that was like his leg got destroyed, or he had a gash in his head. So I was happy it was a camera.
Did you do like a check where you're like, okay, legs here? Like, to me, I'm like in my like listening to the story, I'm like leg, arm,
not
face.
Really. I just was like shaking, and then I'm like, no, not the camera. Like, all I could think about at that moment was the camera. Like,
true cameraman.
So Sam got down to me and picked up the camera in pieces, and actually the camera filmed with the rest of the trip. It's still great today. It's filmed this pod right here. And then the lens that was on it, the internal like barrel cracked, but it's right here filming the podcast as well. Like, it lived to see. So
nice.
those cameras are tougher
microphones,
than
screens, trekking poles, and then when he came up, a lot of black and blue, a lot of scratches and bruises and swollen things. But the bottom line, as soon as he's done, he's like, "Let's go get that Tahr."
You guys asked me like 10 or 12 times, like, this Tahr is not important. We'll leave the mountain. Like, are you good? I'm like, I didn't break anything. Like, let's make this a better story and go shoot this Tahr now. So
I would have called in a helicopter.
What a trip.
I remember,
He was awesome.
I explicitly remember the first thing I said to you guys, like when I got back up the hill, I was like, well, that was embarrassing. That's how I looked at it.
When him and Sam were coming up, I got the binos out just to look on like his face and see like, is he bleeding bad? What's going on? And I got the binos and looked at Koby's face through the binos like at 30 yards when they were walking up. And it looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Like for about 20 minutes.
Oh, I was
A
shook.
little bit dazed.
I mean,
was shook.
It was, you know, I could have just died type of feel that he had.
100%.
Yeah.
I will say,
Yeah.
shout out Peak 44. I had 2 trekking poles off my tripod because I snapped my other one in half, so I would not have felt safe to continue without those. So those Peak 44 trekking poles coming in handy off the tripod.
I had some ibuprofen, I think, in my
Yeah.
first aid kit, and definitely the knee was like a cantaloupe.
What was Sam's reaction?
He was scared.
He was amped up. He was like, you just fell off a bluff, mate.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Sam's reaction. It kind of reminded me of that time when we were horseback riding that one time, and then all of a sudden the cowboy who hadn't said like 2 words the whole trip goes, "We're just lucky no one got killed." I'm like, oh no.
Brenda, I mean, that's what Brenda said. She's like, if that was you or me, we'd have had a helicopter in there probably, you know, with bones that are a little bit older than Kobe's and just a little less flexible with their bodies. But actually, Brenda said shortly after that, she looked at me and said, if that would have happened to me, that'd have been the end of my hunting career. That's exactly what she said. And she looked at me, she's all, no, I'm serious. I was like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. It's all that. It's that juice that you drink in the morning.
All that juice. Yeah, that juice keeping me healthy. Yeah, I mean, my knee took the brunt of the fall. I'd say for about a foot up from each side of if you split my kneecap in half, a foot up and a foot down, like it was just green, purple next couple days. My right hip took a pretty big shot. It's still pretty tender, actually, a couple weeks later.
What did you say the other day? You're like, I'm not sore. I'm just really, really tight and it hurts. It's like, okay, Koby, that's what sore means.
Yeah. Just trying to. But no, overall, I was like, yeah, I'm good. And the knee was stiff the rest of the time. Like the worst part about the next week and a half was the airplane rides because I was sitting in the same spot. It was actually better to keep moving and keep hiking. But
so with all the yelling and shouting, did the Tahr that you guys were after push off?
We couldn't find them.
Gotcha.
we spotted them very briefly after we set up on that flat spot, and it lifted, the fog lifted. I remember we saw them on the skyline.
That's right. Oh yeah, they'd
So
gone.
they were 400 yards uphill. from
Yeah,
where we
they'd
thought
gone.
They were.
Yeah, they'd gone way up high, and then we lost visibility. And then we sat there. We were cold. We were wet. They were up super high. The clouds came in, and so we couldn't see anything. So we ended up backing off the whole stock and the whole hill. After that, let's get back down. Let's go find the Land Cruiser and make sure Koby's okay. So we got off the mountain.
So you got off the mountain. What about like approximate time of the day? Because that was that the morning thing.
I fell at
Probably-
9,
Yeah,
so
so-
Oh, okay.
11.
Yeah, something like that. So we got back down there, and then it was still just raining a lot. And so we said we were going to drive up basically the riverbed in the Land Cruiser for a ways and get to another spot where we could start to hunt up, just straight up again in another area. And Koby actually got the drone out along there and got some cool footage of us going through the rivers. We actually came across some little herds of Tahr in the river and stuff, and it was pretty neat.
Yeah, we
So-
got some good footage of that.
Yeah.
That drone has a 3x zoom on it, so I got a really cool shot of a mom and there were like 4 youngins crossing the creek and stuff. And
No bulls or
and
anything.
then a couple bulls jumped the other side of the ravine or the creek bottom, and just gorgeous country. That getting that different perspective with the drone really helps make people connect with the scenery and how vast and beautiful it is. Just that perspective that you can't see even when you're there with your own eyes. So,
But at that point, I knew that if I was going to shoot a Tahr there before we got
drove to the other part of the island, there'd be a possibility, we were primarily going to go for chamois over there. There'd be a possibility that we'd see Tahr, but it was going to be in a chamois-heavy area. Didn't know if we'd see Tahr. So I knew at that point it was that afternoon or maybe early the next morning that I would have to find a Tahr. Otherwise, in order to keep our thing alive and hit the weather patterns to get in with the helicopter, that was it. We were going to drive the 6 hours to the other part of the island. So kind of the race was on a little bit at that point. We'd had 2 stalks then, one the night before the old bluff falling incident. And then it was kind of like that afternoon we were really hoping to connect on something and find something up in there. So we ended up glassing up high 2 or 3 more bulls that were up in there, at least 2 for sure. One was bedded, and then one skylined for a little bit. So I think just 2.
Yeah, just the 2 and then a couple ewes. Or they're ewes, right?
Yeah. Nannies. They call them nannies, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, bulls and nannies.
Bulls and nannies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we then put on the packs and the rifles and decided to go hike up in there and go see what we could find. We kind of intentionally really looked for a good avenue to hike through where it wasn't deathly. And sure enough, it was like one of the easiest ones we'd done, I felt like.
That was easier than Fallow country.
It was. It was easier in chamois country. So we just kind of like had this good kind of to get up in there, the way the terrain was, ended up being fairly good. And got up in there. It's afternoon by this point. We'd seen the one big one, Skyline, but he bailed. It was afternoon, and we knew the other one was a little bit smaller, the one that we'd seen bedded. So we hike up there, and I briefly pull up my binos and for 2 to 3 seconds see the head of this smaller bull through there. Medium-sized bull, like mature bull, not like maybe a giant trophy bull. And then by the time everybody else got their binos, like nobody else saw it. And I'm like, he was right where we said he was, but now he's not there. And he was looking right at us. So we end up making our way up in there and kind of going, it's afternoon. What are we going to do? This other bigger one that we think was bigger that skylined early that we saw from the bottom from the Land Cruiser, we're like, might be up here somewhere. And we hike basically up to where this bull had originally been bedded. And then, like, he was just gone and, like, totally disappeared. And we're like, man, where did this thing go? And the brush, the scrubs were super high. And we're like, he just vanished. And we turn around, and 75 yards behind us, where we just hiked up, the bull was standing there broadside looking at us. Like we just walked through there.
So somehow
he'd circled around and come behind us.
Literally standing on the exact path we took up.
Which wasn't a path.
I wonder if you guys had the wind, like if the wind wasn't blowing back towards him. I wonder if he like heard the rocks and was like, oh, I wonder if those are
other
Tahr.
We believe he was blind.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'll tell you how. Because we saw it up closer later, like real close.
And foreshadowing.
His eyes look blind. So at that point, cool. I turn around. We see him at 75 yards. And here's where I go. The next morning, we got to go get a rental car. We got to figure out how we're going to load all this stuff up. We have to go get backpacking food. We have a 6-hour drive. I have to learn how to drive on the left side of the road. And we got to do all this tomorrow. There's potentially another bull up in here that's probably a little bit larger. When you say bull Tahr, probably an inch bigger. Yeah. That's up in here somewhere. He said, this is a mature bull. He's not the biggest trophy I've ever seen, but he's a mature bull.
Yeah, good representation of Tahr.
They always say that.
They always say it's a good rep. That means I didn't get the trophy of my life when you say it. It's a good represent. That's like getting the most improved trophy. You're not MVP. And so they're like, so I'm sitting there, and this all happened, though, and I know he's not going to sit there for very long. He's at 75 yards. I'm shooting a 338 RPM with a 262-grain hammer. That's not offered in our factory loads, but I was just experimenting, testing some things out. I love shooting 5-pound guns with 262 grains coming out. It's just fun. So I had a couple seconds to go, do I risk going home without a Tahr? Or for my first trip to New Zealand if this is a mature bull and he's at 75 yards away, do I take him? A couple seconds later, he was dead.
Yeah, you were in your in your New Zealand experience. You're not the willing to go home without something yet. You know, it's not like within your like.
I hadn't shot 5 bull Tahr before. I'd never shot one. He said he was mature, and he was there, and we didn't know. It's not like, oh, the other one went and bed here. We had no clue. You know what I mean? And as it turns out, the next day, our whole goal was to get to the other side of the island so we could see it all during the daylight and everything. We didn't. Even without hunting the next morning, we didn't get all that done and get there by dark. So we were driving the last couple hours in dark. So so we I wanted to shoot one that afternoon, and so it was a bird in the hands, better than 2 in the bush, whatever you want to say on the ones. It was like, a good Tahr here is better than the one that's an inch bigger that we don't know where he is. And they can just disappear, and we'd found that, and we'd also lost visibility. We'd had the clouds come down. You could lose everything. And I'm like, put me in, coach. I can make this 75-yard shot.
You're like, yep, I'll take that one. Yeah, so that was cool. So good shot.
Koby got that on film.
Yeah.
You did. Look at you, man.
Yeah.
It happened
only
pretty quick.
Yeah. I only don't have Joseph's because I wasn't there.
Weird.
Right. I'm not going to talk
from
about
the
that.
airplane over the Pacific.
Step,
yeah.
But
So we ended up shooting him and getting some awesome photos. He was wet too, so I saw Joseph's picture in the mane. He was it looked like
poof ball.
Looked like Chewbacca with a blow dryer all day or something. Just beautiful. Mine was just mangy, wet. Looked
like a wet cat.
Yes, it looked like a wet cat. Koby was just bruised and battered and beaten, and I'm like, but we did it. At that point, we'd got our 2 fallow, we'd got our 2 Tahr, and we did what we came here to do. And so it was awesome. So in the end, I'm glad I pulled the trigger, and it was great. So
that's amazing. When you guys got up to him, did Sam have any theories of why he thought he was blind? So was his eyes glossed
No,
over?
they were kind of that blind white.
They're all
Clouded.
cataract
Clouded.
up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just saw another industry guy. His name is Jake Downs. He's over there hunting as well, and he had killed one similar blue eye, and he thought that they thought it was pink eye. Like that's like a common thing, weird, but it's blue and glossy, but blind. Yeah.
If I would have known, I wouldn't have itched my eyes that night. So, but yeah, let's just say 262 grains at 75 yards. It does the trick. So there's no problems there.
So essentially now you guys are there. You're getting ready to hike off. You're kind of like reminiscing now on leg number 1, conclusion of that. Just based on time, we like to keep these around an hour. So I'm going to cut us off and do a part 2. It's almost like a natural. There's leg number 1, which is your fallow and Tahr hunt. And then we're going to do a part 2. I think just so that we can do it justice and do a full part 2 on chamois. Because this is where, man, you guys have had this whole adventure so far, but it just gets better because there's a lot of adventure to come. And this is the part that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, it's fun. I think they're both great in their own right. I think the first part, we really learned a lot about the country, being with Sam, a lot about what it is to just be maybe a free range kind of DIY hunter there. Sam it's just in his blood. He just loves to hunt. And so that's what he does. It's this authentic experience, not a 5-star lodge with high fences, not what kind of experience this was. So we really got to know the ins and outs, the goods and the bad, the dirty and the clean, a little bit of everything, And so it's just an authentic experience. He wanted us to experience, here's what it's like if you were to just be, just like we are in Wyoming, right? It's kind of like authentic, like maybe DIY, like, hunters here in the West. That's kind of how Sam feels there. And he wanted us, it'd be like us taking somebody elk and mule deer and wanting them to get that authentic experience. That's what Sam really strived to do, and it's what we got. And he did it very well. And so we had a phenomenal experience. Sure, the second part we'll talk about next, flying in a helicopter, public land, had its super epic moments. But it was to experience that without this, I think we'd have missed part of New Zealand, don't you think? Yeah. So
Sam probably gave you guys a good base of the culture.
Correct.
And I think we went into the next part of the hunt more confident. That we just knew the country, and it was a different part, but we just had confidence that we could, and we knew if we got in trouble, we had someone to call. It's always good. Feels good too. He'd taken care of us up to this point.
So it was great, and we'd had some good food. We've been able to eat our animals. We had tartar, we called it
tartar.
That was our hors d'oeuvre, tartar. was a little like raw, semi-cooked Tahr. Of all the animals we ate, least favorite.
Was Tahr.
Yeah.
That's Tahr.
No second place for last. It was last.
Yeah.
But we ate it. So yeah, so it was great. It was a really cool experience on the first part, hanging out with Sam and doing that. And it was like somehow with getting there a day late and having the weather that we did and the whole thing being scrapped, like we were still able to get in there and really get it done, which over there for doing what we did, I think we lucked out in some ways. So it was great.
That's awesome. So the way this will air next week, we'll have part 2. And I do want to say, Koby's parents, if you are listening, Koby is fine. I promise. He is fine. So
we here at Weatherby take care of our employees, So Brenda was there. She did the old look at him like 5 times on the side of Mount Koby. I'm telling you now, if you need to go, let's go, and blah, blah, blah. So it was like...
I can attest to that. And that she's like, usually it's Amy calling me and telling me about this. Now you're going to make me call her and tell her about this.
They run HR,
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
have to make sure we come back with everybody okay.
When I did get that text, I was like, well, at least he's with the director of HR, so or VP of HR.
Adam said, I remember this. He's like, "Oh, it's a good thing it happened with me because if that happened when you were with Tyler, he would have gotten in trouble for taking to somewhere too dangerous."
No, if it was anybody else and that happened, Brenda and I would have sat down and gone, guys, don't take people on these dangerous hunts. But because it was like going after my Tahr and we were in the element,
I didn't even think about that. But that is
you would have gotten
true.
so much trouble, Tyler, if that would have happened on a hunt with you.
Now I can say Adam did it.
But here's the deal. Koby ain't going to fall again.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you
odds are.
that kid's going to get to anything of any sort of degree of slope. And he's going to, I told him, so I fell when I was 25. And I broke my left hip, my left wrist, and sprained my left ankle. And it's a whole podcast in and of itself. But every time I get to anything where my footing's not good and it's really steep, I've been forever changed since then. It changes the way I view hiking steep things. And I guarantee you, you will never go to that kind of terrain again without being changed. You know what I'm saying?
Because it's always going to be in the back of my mind
Yes.
of what happened. It's not necessarily that you're thinking about doing it differently, but it's there
Yeah.
and
But
it
you
has
didn't
a
do
presence.
anything wrong. either.
Exactly.
No,
but
no, no.
exactly,
Nothing wrong.
that's the thing that
But-
makes it even more like I said, in that moment before it, I had no thoughts of like rolling down this mountainside. I did not think I was going to do that.
Yeah.
And I've been in a lot
Yep.
worse hillsides. And
But
so.
that fall could have kept you from a worse fall 7 years from now.
Exactly.
Because then you might be just extra careful, the next time. So
Yeah.
it's good.
But
All right. We'll see you guys soon.